Today we are reacting to the greatest trios match in Warzone history, and this is taken from World Series of Warzone. We're going to be looking at different POVs for Biffle, Sage, as well as Shifty, and who they interact with. Obviously, this is how the main broadcast started, but I went and chopped up all the various clips so we can get the different POVs, like we did last year with Scump's Solo YOLO, which I plan to do again this time around with Skullface. So if you're interested in that, please do me a favor, hit the like button. Hopefully we get 2,000 likes on this video, and then I'll go ahead and jump on that specific one. So we're starting out with Biffle's POV, and it will bounce around automatically. I've already gone through and edited a few different things. I've added the total team kill counter above my webcam, as well as the different POVs that we're going to see on the bottom right when they run into other players. You can see right now, Biffle just placed this Claymore. One thing to kind of point out, I had to actually look at the time difference of this, because he places this Claymore down and then 10 minutes later somebody runs into it. So one thing he'll be like, hey, that was my Claymore from earlier, I know exactly where that is, and then they full send that area. So it's a lot of there's a memory to be done when it comes to World Series of Warzone. If you're not familiar with what the World Series of Warzone is, this is the first time we've ever had a large scale LAN event for Warzone, and this is something that the community has kind of wanted for a while. Unfortunately, it didn't happen in Verdansk or even Caldera when the game was a little bit more popular than I think it is right now. But in general, it was great for a lot of people to show up and show what they're all about. I know there's going to be a few people saying, well, so-and-so didn't show up. Well, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. All I know is that this team ended up coming out on top. Essentially, they were so far ahead on terms of separation, they didn't even really need to play this last map to secure the victory. And that's pretty impressive in its own right. Even though there's been some naysayers out there about Biffle saying he's a cheater and this and that. I mean, he's proven himself time and time again on LAN. I've seen him play in person multiple times, and no matter what people say, the dude's goated. We have Sage, which has kind of been the guy who gets that first break a lot of times. So they use him as a situation to kind of be the first one in, and if it works out well, good. If not, then the team's ready to buy him back or use one of the flares. So he's kind of like that entry player, which is pretty effective in the team dynamic. And then we also have Shifty, which in this particular case, Shifty ends up being the IGL. And this is someone that had a lot of accusations surrounding them. It's kind of nice when people can go out there and prove that they are one of the best in the world on LAN with observers and all that type of stuff with the LAN. We actually did the podcast. I was on the Polls Check podcast. It was myself, Repolls, Rampage, and Lucky Shamu. And we did that live from the event. So if you were there, appreciate it for coming by, saying hi, all the support on the stream. It was awesome experience in London, traveling through Europe, which we'll talk about on stream at a different time. A lot of this team strategy is just to get set up. One of the advantages with this team is they are Team Biffle. And you would think that, well, whatever, it's not really a big deal. But there is a little bit of an aura around certain teams that, like, that these are the best of the best teams, and you generally do not run into them. If you get the bounty here where it says, hey, you got to chase down Biffle, Hisoka, Rated Aiden, some of these types of people, Tommy, Almond, and Noobs. If you're getting any of these like heavy hitters, and I'm sure you guys know a few others, you avoid those players because they will ruin your game and you will end up losing those matches more often than not because they're that caliber of player. No matter how good you are, you generally might want to play it a little different because of how good these players are. So it's just something to keep in mind. That's one thing right here where they don't really seem to have gotten contested. I know in some of the other matches they were able to wipe the one team that was there, but generally because of that little aura around them, they don't get contested nearly as much as maybe one of those teams that's relatively unknown. They're working, like I said, it's a little bit slower. It's a lot about getting the utility. They've all gotten their loadouts. They're getting the self revives, the plates, the armor vest, a lot of that stuff. Stronghold, black sites, whatever it is to get in position, because most of the points are generally going to be earned by Endgame. At this point in the match, we've already a little bit towards halfway zone. You can see that it's still 0 kills up, 48 teams still alive and 137 players. So it looks like Shifty's putting in some work on these little LTVs. This was the last game, so some players are probably like trying to stay alive just long enough to make it to endgame, because the top 25 got placement points, or top 35 for placement points, but to actually get paid money for the event, you had to actually place top 25. So it looks like they're working towards this team that's over here. It looks like there's 2 teams. So there's a potential third party, and this is pretty good strategies in general to third party other teams, because a lot of times they might not have enough plates, they might not have their loadout. You get them when one is down and either in the gulag, so then it's a 3v2 scenario, and then you kind of pinch them. Like I said, Sage ends up being that entry player where maybe they play a little bit out of position, not the power position, and they put themselves in a position where maybe they're going to be playing a little bit more reckless, but they're getting the information, and the team being able to bring them back is a huge key. They're using a lot of utility with UAVs. You can see he's using Bird's Eye over here on the perk, and then he has a stealth vest on the left there. So very powerful. So it goes in the tunnel, and we're going to get our first look at the split screen. You'll have to give me some feedback on this. I cut this out to try and make it fit perfectly, where you can still see it. And then we've also included the place that this team ended up getting overall in the tournament, as well as their placement points. Keeping in mind that like this was over the course of all 6 matches. So they're coming in here. Bubble is in here. They do end up going head to head a lot of areas. When you fight a team initially, you might fight them again pretty quickly, because if they come back from the gulag, you didn't wipe their entire team. They're going to kind of try and meet up with their teammates to try and regain or get their loadout or some of those things. So work this area. They got the precision in there. He knows they're here because of the UAVs, and then he tries to get a little bit of action going on there. Unfortunately, they did have a trophy system, which kind of limited his ability to do anything there. And then it was kind of like, you're in too deep, and it's unfortunate. So he tries to make a break for it. Doesn't make it around the corner. Gets instantly deleted. And then we're back to Shifty and Biffle. With an opportunity to buy back or whatever the case is if he doesn't win his gulag. We will have a chance to check out the gulag too, because we do have both POVs on that. Some of the people did not have the VODs up, unfortunately, so I wasn't able to get every single POV, but we got like 95% of the POVs to try and see how they played the situation, because that's always the key. So he's in the gulag here with, I think, Brelo. I don't know how he wins his gulag, but he plays it normally. You know, you get a little bit of intel. He pushes it a little bit closer. He thinks the guy's going to peek the heady. A lot of times what ends up happening is when you get snapshotted, the enemy knows where you're at, so they'll go ahead and aggressively push you. So he was just like pre-aiming a common head glitch to try and get that kill off. He jumps around the corner, tries to pre-fire, and then he makes it across. On Brelo's screen, he has no clue that he's already cut across. He still thinks he's in this general area on the left-hand side. So he goes and throws that flash grenade. He gets hit, and Brelo makes the assumption. He rounds the corner, and he immediately peeks this left side, which fortunately for Sage, he's able to catch him, shoot him in the back before everything's over, and then he's able to clean up on the kill. Pretty straightforward. And unfortunately for Brelo, that was actually a team wipe, and he is out. He was last alive on his team, so he was able to clutch up. One thing they also tend to do quite a bit is they get these most wanteds, and they usually play this off with the stealth vest, which is pretty smart, because then you use your most wanted teammate, which is Shifty in this case. You can see Shifty's kind of over here. He's the #1 on the map. And then Biffle's kind of off to the side. And then he can kind of hold an off angle. So if anyone pushes up with the stealth vest, no matter if they have a UAV, he's going to be able to get them along with the precision. So he'll be able to work the area and kind of position himself that way. So still 2 minutes. And then if there are kills that obtained through action or looting, it will knock down that timer from the 2 minutes down a lot quicker, right? I think it starts at 4 minutes-ish. But it goes down pretty quick, especially if you're getting some kills. So again, playing with the stealth vest a little bit at a distance. Calls in the precision. No, he just peeks. He didn't call it in. All right. He's going to work across. Again, good players tend to do this little jump and parachute. If you haven't explored that yet, I would get used to it. I think the dive and all that stuff will still be in Warzone after the integration. So you definitely want to incorporate that in your playstyle if you haven't already, if you thought, hey, where are they going to change it? And one thing to keep in mind, these are 100 and 200 meter shots. Generally, this is not the range you're going to challenge someone. It's not like Warzone 1 where there's no visual shake. Even mounted, that could be a tricky shot. So the combination of loadout, you can see that he's using the Cast-Off 7.62 with the Lockman sub. Him and Sage are essentially using the same loadout. And then Shifty, he's actually using the Signal 50. The meta for the entire tournament was pretty much the Signal 50 with the Lockman sub, and that was kind of the combo there. So now we have Bubble, which initially got Sage, and his teammates, you can see they're a little bit further off. I know it's a little bit smaller, but they've already crossed the road and they've gotten to edge of zone. He's kind of split, really doesn't want to cross the road, doesn't want to give away his position, and you can see kind of like the angles that Biffle and the team are going to essentially converge on him on Biffle's minimap. So we're going to go ahead and push up along the wall. They kind of have an idea where they're at because it is highlighted on the minimap with the bird's eye activated. He just comes through, spots him. Sage throws a nade over. He says nade's the backside, so he really has nowhere to go. And it's unfortunate the team didn't provide any cover from the other side. So it's essentially a free kill. So they go ahead and take him out pretty easily. And you can see the kill count has risen with Sage, and it'll go up again once this thirst comes through. So that's the active tally. As he gets the kill, it shoots up to 2. So we've kept that all accurate. I wish that was an in-game feature. There was like keeping track of the total team count instead of having a tab open, look at it, and see, all right, this is what the team has, or whatever the case is. So still has loadout in play. They haven't all grabbed that. Biffle is hunted, but like I said, there is a little bit of an aura around him. If his name's there, they're probably like, nah, I don't really want to challenge that. There are other teams that maybe you would want to do that with, especially if, like, let's say Hisoka got it on this team. Hisoka's going to challenge anything. He's one of the best players in the world, and you end up with the scenario where you can kind of full send it, and, like, he's hoping for the best because he wants to eliminate them. He ended up placing second in the entire tournament with his team, Skullface and Myapo. But they don't get too much action in this particular gameplay. They didn't really run into each other. I think towards the end, Wars ends up running into Hisoka, but we don't really get to see much of that from our POVs. And you can see they've had a pretty decent amount of cash to continue calling in these UAVs, and that helps with the rotations, and it just allows you to have that mobility. Obviously, the stealth vest is in play, so you kind of have to worry about that in some scenarios by getting third-partied, but fortunately, they didn't really end up having to worry about it all that much. So they are kind of like working the area here. He kind of pinged that. You can see he's really close. He comes through. Pretty much an easy kill. Because they were split, the guy's running this way thinking he's safe, and then Shifty gets pretty much a free kill. He rotates back through, and then he's going to throw down this suppression mine. Something to keep in mind, because he'll be back here. That sits there for a while, just like that Claymore. Unfortunately, it ends up being the same guy a couple times. But you can see kind of how they're playing it. They're owning this area of the map. They really haven't rotated too aggressively. They just continue to own this. There were those couple people that were still out there. If they're on a regain, then you would imagine they're starting to work in. Gets another little bag of cash there. They could combine for a oh, there's another bag. And you can see the Claymore went off. The Claymore went off, hit too strong. And then they essentially, you have the live ping over here for this building where Too Strong is, and they're able to utilize that intel. So definitely be placing those Claymores off floor loot if you want to kind of have an idea, if you can remember where you place them, because even after 10 minutes, the Claymore was still in place and still gave valuable intel that they're going to utilize to go ahead and push on. So they're going to go ahead and hit the buy, get the quick little UAV off. And then now they know, all right, well, that guy rotated from here. He rotated into this building. And then we'll go ahead and see them pretty shortly on the other POV. It does look like it's a solo. That's where the Claymore went off. So it's likely someone on a regain. And then they're able to push this a 2-1. It comes around. You can see that somebody either just got bought back or won their Gulag. That's the second person coming in. And it looks like Strunk, he's got to go ahead and put on some plates. But he got injured and wasted some plates as a result of that. So they know he's in here. They don't want to overcommit. You can see Sage is being the entry guy. He's going to go into the building, try and get the guy aggressively. And then Biffle's here for the cleanup. And then also to cover the back end when this guy, if they decide to jump out, right? So then he ends up jumping out. Biffle gets the freest kill. And aim assist is a wonderful thing. This is on LAN with observers standing behind and monitoring all that. Biffle's aim looks as cracked or as straight as ever. So anyone who doubted it, just you know, skill issue. That at the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to. So you wipe that dude. This dude just going through it, bro. He's going to come back. We're going to see him a little bit more, a little bit. There it is. Gets another flare. The flares are probably one of the most useful tools in this, especially with Sage being the entry man. They can go ahead and make sure they have these on reserve. So if he makes a quote unquote stupid play where it's overly aggressive, they can, you know, bring them back. And it's low risk because especially with the perks that drop now and being able to get your weapons pretty quickly, you end up in a really good spot. One thing I do want to point out is you can go ahead and see this guy coming down. And this is too strong on the bottom right that we see here. It didn't have too good of a showing at 46, but overall made it to the World Series of Warzone where there was only a total of 150 players worldwide. So he's landing in right there. And then they're going to go ahead and push this as well. So they know that guy's coming back either from the Gulag or got bought back. And then they do have the intel. Shifty ends up saying, hey, he just walked past the bottom part. He hit the suppression mine that he placed earlier. And you can see this. He just ran up. So he knows where they're at. He's pre-aiming it in case they decide to jump out. And then he jumps out the backside. Biffle's pushing around that side. And then essentially Sage is doing like a cutoff route while Biffle's following behind. So they know they're like two teaming this. And then Shifty's just providing overlook since he's rocking a sniper. He can't really get that entry break like you would want. So he just comes through. He's able to catch him a rotation. He's been live pinged a couple different times on the mini map. You can see over here Biffle has had line of sight. And then he's basically able to get this free kill as they come through. So straightforward, easy kill in the gas, and dude gets smoked. Unfortunately for Too Strong. About 38 teams, 105 players, and they are only sitting at 5 kills, which isn't all that crazy. They do pick up a lot of kills right in the last couple zones. And for players that have been playing for a while, you kind of have a general idea of where the zone is going to rotate to. So you can kind of reposition yourself like expecting certain zones to happen, and then you know where kind of like the soft spots and the strong spots are. So you can either avoid that or like pursue a specific area. There it is. You got them. They got more plates all the way across. They figured out the rotation. And Shifty's going to be the one responsible for making the call outs of where to go, when, all that type of stuff. Unless one of them decides they want to make a specific call. Generally, he's that in-game leader, that captain, that coach that's essentially going to make the plays in real time. So they're peeking the area. You can see that they're going to be rotating across the water. They end up getting a little bit more cash there. Sage is getting like ate the hell up by the live ping area, right? Somebody up the hill. He almost gets killed here. This could have been really bad for them. But his ability to stay alive just long enough, even without, crazy good movement in the game, it was just enough to keep it together. And it allowed it to move on to this next part where they're going to have to kind of like own this building. So he calls in the precision. He runs into it, almost gets hit by his own. And then this team lands in as the precision's coming in, so they almost got hit by it. And then they're actually able to like kind of take on this team while the other team is having issues from the other side.
You have nades? Do you guys have nades?
Yeah, 2 nades.
So you can see Santify is kind of worried about on the top. You can hear all that. They got another PA.
They're rezzing.
He jumps down. Sage essentially slams him. They do a little bit of damage. Shifty works up. He gets the call out. They know that they're all dead. You can kind of see this. They got double down, so he's going to go ahead and push up and see if he can get any of those. He jumps up. And the thing he was talking about the gas is when you throw the gas grenade, you end up going like this, so you can't really jump without taking too much fall damage. So that's why sometimes you end up with a situation where it's just too dominant. They basically team shoot this guy. He's dead. And that was it. That's a team wipe there. And then they're able to look kind of like this team. But then he's got to back off of here. Kind of in a bad spot. They have the high ground. And he needs to get the heck out of there. He's just burning plates at this point. He's going to be down to 1 additional plate. And that's sometimes the hard part, right? Like avoiding the bad fight and letting like the map play itself out. He puts up the counter UAV and he's like, we can avoid that. Because you know that those teams are going to converge. So you'll have a potential opportunity to third party that at some point. So they get hit with the precision. He says it's going to be straight down. It could have been bad again where maybe they get hit with it. You know, sometimes the precisions can be a little wonky. Especially if there's windows or the roofs are made of paper somehow. But then they just cut underneath.
I have a daddy if you want me to push out a building.
And see what he's saying. Hey, I have a daddy in case you want me to push out a building. And then he's going to be that entry push, right? Like that's the whole, like his position and role.
I want to check it out.
Sorry if there was a little stuttering in some of the gameplay. That's because I ripped this from their VODs from the actual competition, which you know, maybe they didn't have all their settings dialed in. But you can kind of see Fried, they were literally pre-aiming this window for this amount of time. This is not a still shot. Fried's team got 21st with 58.5 points or so. So he goes and pushes up the building. You can see that there's a full squad there. And then, you know, there's all kinds of people around the map. Like there's just, this thing is flooded. But this position is a very powerful position that they'll be able to work. So if he can get the right timing, it's gonna be good for them. So he jumps in and gets smoked. But the guy ends up being one shot down here. So it could have been good. He was already pre-firing it. But you can see they've already got him back. Like literally in that time, they already got him back because of the flare. And now you have King Maddie over here. They got 14th. They're working the building over here on the south side. Or not the south side, on the northeast side. And he's going to end up coming across. He hits the buy station real quick. And then the process, Biffle gets the freest kill. Takes that guy out. Super easy. Then Shifty ends up giving the call outs. Go now, go now, go now. To reposition on the actual bridge. So then they can actually hold it. So earlier on Sage's POV, since he doesn't have bird's eye, I think he has high alert. It actually showed that they were under the bridge.
Yeah, nice. I like that. Only have a pistol. Keep it in mind. Right there.
So there's the high alert. And he also has the fast revive. He's using the utility where he like swaps these to the inventory and then uses the munitions to go ahead and put that up. This thing's blocking the little pipe. But you can see the use of the live pings. And then there's actually this whole team. You can see that there's 1, 2, and then there's the 3. They're all coming across. This is them in front. He ends up getting good timing with that stuck nade. And then he's able to take out Too Strong. Unfortunately, that is the third time they killed Too Strong. He just got brutalized in this one. And then he's able to turn around and then take out Rodrigo over here on the buy station. So you can see the flare comes up from the buy station from the buyback. He just peeks it really quick, ends up torching Rodrigo real easily. Get some other hits there. Biffle comes in for some cleanup kills on Stuo, I believe. And Exion. There it is. He gets those clean kills. Dongi's working over here. Dongi is on top of the ranked leaderboard. He gets crushed, and then they team shoot him over there. So here's the call out. He's saying, fly to my diamond, fly to my diamond. He's repeating himself because he wants to clear comms. And then you have Huskers that's sitting in the bush right here playing for placement points. They had a decent showing considering they almost like there was like the impossibility of them making it from the LCQ. They had no chance at that point, and then they did make it in because one team wasn't able to get situated on flight plans. And then Method Sick already goes into it with Sage. They get the trade, and then they get the fast revive. So Biffle ended up switching out his vest. He did end up having the fast revive at this point instead of the stealth vest. I don't know why that switch happened. Right now, I'd have to rewatch that part of it, but he ended up trading out the vest because the revive comes in so clutch in scenarios like this.
I'm good. I have 60. Do not worry about me. Do not worry about me.
So they keep nading it. They're worrying about that, but then Shifty gets hit from an angle, so he kind of got to back off. And getting height is essentially on top of the rails here, or these pipes, so you can just climb up the little ladder as long as your team gets coverage. So you can see Patsuka, he's doing his thing too with Stuwo. They ended up taking out their team, but they were able to get revived. He takes them out. He gets turned around. Biffle's working the high ground. You can see Wars is coming in over here hot. Wars, shout out to Wars. They got 5th. And they were also #1 in EU. So they actually were kind of like, not the sleeper, because I've met Wars. Phenomenal player, nice dude. But they ended up beating out Jukies and FIFA, which were the heavy favorites for this. So maybe there'll be a reuniting with Wars, FIFA, and Jukies at some point. I don't know. That's a couple years ago. I'm pretty sure they played together before, all three on the same team. Then they split up and all still do pretty good. But he gets deleted by Biffle right here. Gets smoked. The comms get kind of hectic as well, and that's one thing that's kind of crazy with all that. Everything happens so fast. So they just brought back Sage, and again, even though he's not having the most kills in this match, he's providing intel. Like when he was in the air, he was saying, hey, they're on the buy, they're on the buy, they're on the buy. And he was able to give that intel from the sky when he got bought back with the flare. In this particular case, he's able to land loadout and then go into the water to try and make a play. And I think that was actually beneficial because in the water is a tract with Smixy and Flank's team. And they might have provided enough distraction to reposition and just throw their positioning out of whack. So Tract ends up getting Sage. Biffle's working this little area where he's just snaking over and over, trying to get intel. And then there's still 2 other teams. So it's the Smixy team, and then I'm not sure what the other team was. But you can see they have the high ground. They did get favorable rotation where it pulls towards them. Doesn't have a gas mask though. Oh, it was Joe Wo's team. Joe Wo's team got killed by a track. So he knows where they're at. He ends up getting hit with the clean snipe. And that's what's super unforgiving with the Signal 50. You hit your shots, you're golden. You're not like, you're kind of screwed. So I think in the case, like there's some scenarios where you've probably been better off with an AR just because you would have had a little bit more consistency in certain scenarios if you weren't 100% on. But the part of the optic is that night vision optic that allows you to just get a little bit more intel. So they're working this up. Flanked is last alive on their team. Shout out to all these guys, and put links to their channels in the bio if you want to check it out for the Biffle team. So if you want to go ahead and follow, subscribe, all that stuff, that is linked near the top description. But we'll get into the ending.
I'm good. I'm on height.
He might die. He might die.
I'm vibing. I'm just
So you got to remember that
Just sub. We have 2 subs.
attached,
got self?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
good.
sub, yeah, sub.
attract is already dead.
You have water pistols back.
Deny water. Deny water.
They're getting fully plated, backed in.
Drive me, baby. Drive me.
And Shifty, he's saying finish this with the kill, because a lot of times the last team will just kind of run away. They end up going in, and then they end up basically winning the tournament with everything on the line, with the crowd at play. If you went to the venue, we were pretty much like up here to the side that way. So we were able to have live attendance viewing. Again, shout out to everyone who was able to come by the booth to say what's up. If you want to see more of this type of content, I do enjoy breaking down gameplay, but specifically different POVs. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe with notifications on. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.